Yeah, that's so true. We do teach 24 weeks per year, and we do assess, I think, about 15 weeks. That's ridiculous.
Hmm.
That's a lot of assessment, and ultimately, the only one who doesn't benefit from this is the student.
Hmm.
Are there initiatives in Europe and in Belgium, for example, to create more online universities where people can either get degrees online and a lot of that is geared towards working people, people who have jobs who don't really have time to go to the university. So what they do is they take online degrees in certain skills, not in all
Hmm.
skills. Obviously, in engineering, you probably need to be there for labs and experimentation, but you can learn a lot of the basics and a lot of the theory and all the soft skills classes really online. You don't have to be there in person. What do you think about that? Or what do you see in your area? Is that changing?
Uh, for the moment, I do have 5 students, distance learning, working students for Photoshop. So I did create quite a lot of tutorials for them. So we have more and more distance learning students, but we try to integrate them with the other students. So I try to reuse all the assets I'm creating for foreign students, for distance learning students, and for the normal regular students. I think that's something that will just grow and grow more and more in the future. Yes, more and more for lifelong learning, just taking some courses with regular students on distance learning.
One
Yeah.
thing that's interesting is you brought up that you like to integrate them into the university, and that goes down to socialization. Just like animals, we need to socialize our students. And
Yeah.
aside from working, 'cause if you look at kids nowadays, they spend a lot of time on a computer, not a lot of time outside, not a lot of time socializing, at least intelligent socializing. And so that's one part of the college environment which is important, or the work environment, socializing people so that they learn how to communicate a little bit better with each other. I think they've done studies that younger people communicate more through texting than verbally. Well, that's interesting, but at what point do you have any kind of real meaningful conversation? You can only say "hey" about 3 million times on a text message until it becomes old. So and I've seen it having had teenagers, and it's hey, 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 hey. Well, that's really meaningful. And we had 2 gals that worked with us years ago, and I remember I walked in the morning, and they had walked into each other, and one goes, "Hey, did you see that show? That show that was talking about that stuff that was so cool," and the other one goes, "Yeah, it was so I don't even know what they were talking about," and yet they had a completely non-meaningful, meaningful conversation. So
Well, meaningful to them.
meaningful to them, or at least comforting. I don't know if it had any meaning whatsoever. I think it would probably disappeared from their heads within moments, but socialization and communication is something that is dying in a lot of ways. We're not communicating clearly. We're communicating emotionally, but we're not communicating on any other level. And there's definitely some issues with that.
I made my students Twitter just for problem-based learning. They never used Twitter for that, but I got them to do it.
What were the results?
Yes, they never realized they could use social media also for learning. That's the big problem. There's such a large gap between what they are doing mostly during their lives and learning. Learn is just coming far away. They don't like it anymore. So they were very astonished. I'm the oldest teacher, and I had to teach them how to use Twitter.
That's great. I love that. That's good.
Yeah, Twitter is a great tool to use as an adjunct with your e-learning course, no matter what you're authoring it with. And one great tool is the Wiffiti, Wiffiti. I think it is. I'll go online and look real quick and put it into the chat room. But that allows you to integrate live tweets into a authored e-learning course. Through placement of a web object inside of your course. So it can definitely be used very creatively in e-course design.
Security notwithstanding, right?
Well, yeah, obviously, if your course is going to be deep behind, Fort Knox or a hefty firewall, that's not going to allow you to embed those web objects, and then sure, you're not going to be able to do it. But that's a whole nother show, another 5 shows.
Actually, one of these days we should have a show on security, Twitter,
Yeah.
security, and all the different tools that can open up a company literally in a good and bad way.
Yeah.
And we can talk about WikiLeaks. We can call it Twitty Leaks.
It looks like Jeff is saying that he just got into Twitter himself after Janice's session last week. So congratulations, Janice, for being a Twitter evangelist. And congratulations, Jeff, for taking that step and joining us on Twitter. You're finally part of the party.
And you know what's funny? The 3 people you're seeing on the screen right now all met directly or indirectly through Twitter. And we've established friendships and professional relationships and collaborations through a tool that you wouldn't think would do that. But yes, it has allowed or facilitated our ability to get to know more people and to be less lonely, of course.
Yeah, now I have somebody to visit when I go to Belgium.
Yes, you're welcome. So, I even started to blog because RG just pushed me to blog. So I started blogging and all that.
And that was RJ Heckes from Adobe. He's one of the product evangelists.
And what is your blog address again, so I can go ahead and put that in the chat window?
Let me go bring that up over here. This is her blog address right here.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and type that into the chat window there. Now, not to get off of the subject here too much, but your username, Lily Berry, where does that come from?
Yes.
He was
Why?
I was just wondering where did your username come from of Lily Berry?
Lily is my nickname in the family. Small children always call me Lily. And Biri is the first part of the name of my husband, who is an African, and he is called Biri Hanyuma. So Lily
okay.
Biri, I'm with Biri.
Oh, that's
You understand?
cute. I didn't know that. That's nice.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for explaining that. I always try to figure out, because when the names don't match at all, the real name and the username, usually there's some kind of story behind it. So I was just wondering what your story was behind your username. So thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
And Janice is saying the mystery is solved. Yes, we have solved that mystery, Janice.
Don't tell everyone.
No. Interpol is now searching for you. Don't worry.
And Jeff wants to know if you prefer being called Lily or Lieve.
My name is Lieve, but I know it's rather difficult for non-Dutch speakers, so you can call me Lily or Lieve, just like you want.
You know, I find that Lieve comes naturally to a former New Yorker, because we drop our R's anyway.
What do you mean by that, huh?
You talking to me?
Yeah, you talking to me? Most people probably don't know that you and I grew up almost around the block from each other. We were both in Queens.
Yes, I'm a former Queens boy. I've been out here in Los Angeles, though, for about 15 years.
Yeah,
now.
and I grew up in New York as well, in Queens, but have been out here a long time, 40-something years. So I almost lost my New York. I didn't have that much of a New York accent, just every so often when I say water.
Yeah, want a coffee.
A coffee.
Well, Lieve, what would you say? What advice would you give for any educators that are listening to this or listening to the recorded session here? What advice would you give them for adopting or changing their instructional style to include e-learning design?
Last week I gave a presentation to some colleagues about my dreams as a digital immigrant. And I told them, just like before, you have to try to live in the situation of our present students. How do they communicate? How do they live? So I told them to jump right into the social media, to use LinkedIn, to use Facebook, to use Twitter, and just trying to get the way students are thinking for the moment. That's one. And secondly, take a class, an e-learning class. How can you teach e-learning or develop e-learning if you never took a class on e-learning? And there are even free tutorials all over internet, so why not? So just try to live first the situation of our students, and then you will see that it's not possible anymore just to talk in a big aula and try to pop some knowledge into the heads of the students. That's not working anymore. I hope I made clear what I mean.
I think that's very good advice, because how do you learn to get better e-learning if you don't do it yourself? I mean, if you don't watch other people's learning? And that goes back to other topics we've had on the show regarding vibrant communities for vendors. When a vendor has a vibrant community, what happens? They're sharing a lot of the techniques and skills with everyone else, and all of a sudden everybody's e-learning or development can come up a notch and can become even better.
Do you think we're at finally at the point of no return, where to not adapt to these new skill sets means inevitable antiquity? Or do you think that the instructor-led trainer who knows nothing but instructor-led training, do you think they still have a little bit more of a lifespan?
I hope not, but I fear yes. I don't think we can continue like this in college, but Janice just said university is lucky to have you. They are just wishing I should be leaving, because I'm always crying that you are not doing what you should do for the moment. And they're saying, come back in 20 years, perhaps we will understand what you are talking about. I don't know. I was also a very good teacher, just instructing and talking before an aula with 200 or 300 students. And they did understand everything I said. When they got outside, and 2 hours later, they didn't know anything anymore. So.
Yeah. Well, they've done a lot of studies that retention on e-learning is probably 65 to 85% versus about 15% in actual sitting down classes. That's a big difference. That's an enormous difference. And think of, I once got people irritated, when you tell people things like, I've forgotten more than most people have learned. And I got told that was really arrogant. No, that's just a reality. We forget a lot as we grow and as we learn. It has nothing to do with anything other than it's normal. We do forget a lot of things. But if you can create a better retention, well, why not? And why not use the tools at our disposal to make it a little bit better? Guys, we are going on almost an hour, and we're going to have to probably break for Christmas pretty soon.
Rick, can I give my motto?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. My motto is, a good teacher should be a passionate learner.
That's a good motto.
It is. And so true.
I think we're gonna be borrowing that one. And Santa Terrence is back.
Yes, bringing e-learning toys to all the good boys and girls out there. Well, this was great having you on here, Lieve, and finally getting to hear from you what the pronunciation of your name is, so that I can actually start using it correctly now. So thank you for doing that, for coming on, and thanks for you've been joining us in the the show's history now for, I think this is our 5th show, right, Rick?
Yep.
I think it's our 5th show, and you've been with us for all 5 of those shows, so thank you so much. And
we really do
especially-
appreciate it.